Hello, it's Eric, the Human Swiss Army Knife. I haven't done a video for a bit, and I just wanted to show you something that you probably won't see in many years, and maybe just for the interested person in how things work. Got my cup of coffee. I've got a clock here. I did a video earlier about fixing it, and then about a week or so later it died. Because one of the windings in the motor just decided to break off. This is the face of the clock. I calculated it's about 57, almost 60 years old. And they're fairly common, but not this one so much that's in good shape. So GE made it in this model, I believe 404. And as a kid, I never could figure out how to take them apart. And you have to take the faceplate off to get to the two screws that hold the thing together. So I guess that was a good thing when I was younger, because I tended to break things. And I am this human Swiss Army knife just because I have so many different various talents that I've been blessed with, that I can just figure things out or give it a try and failure, and a lot of times I'm having success on almost everything I do. So this was a very successful thing, and I'm going to tilt the camera down here and just show you this and get my mug off the camera. Okay, so right here we have ourselves the guts of the clock. I'm going to show you, this is the chiming mechanism. These are all the things that are memorized, that are actually not memorized, but are programmed. These are program wheels of the chimes and stuff that this thing makes when it rings. So when I took it apart, I noticed that it wasn't working. I thought, well, maybe this motor's bad. This is actually a transformer. That's a magnetic transformer like you see in a lot of motors, but it's very, very old. And I found that one of the wires was actually disconnected. So what I did, you can't see this right here, what I did was I secured two wires here, one on either side, and then soldered them and then taped them so they wouldn't come loose, and then I epoxied them. So it looks like at one time my dad might have done this a long time ago, but what I want to show you is that this has a magnetic induction motor. That's the motor, okay? It's separate, and these two little copper coils interact with this motor and cause it to rotate. And it causes it to rotate at a 60 cycle, which actually gives you what you need for the correct times. So I'm going to put this back together, and I decided to, at first I wasn't going to keep the original wire, but I think I kind of want to keep the original wire. And that means I'm going to have to change where the knot was in here. And I want to route it out so it doesn't interfere with your timing of your setting your clock. Because I think that's what happens, is you stick your finger in there to set the clock and it moves the wires around. Now that will probably never happen again because now I have epoxy on that. So I'm just going to put a little knot like that and bring this back. I'm not going to mess with this too much because it is delicate, and I am going to take these wires. I'm going to bring this one over here, because when this motor goes back in, it'll go like that, and the two wires will be sitting there. So I can take some black tape. I'm going to hang on to it very tightly so I don't rip anything. I have two wires there. These are already cut. Now remember, when you put these over it, you need to make sure that you put your insulation. I'll put them over these. These are the old insulations, kind of like keep that old school. Slide your insulation on first, or you're screwed. Take everything apart again. Alright? We're going to apply a very, very little amount of solder on these, because they don't need much. Okay, but I'm going to cut this wire so I have a larger piece to wrap around. That way it won't go anywhere. Same for this end. Okay, and I'll take this and crimp it a little bit. That's how you preserve that. So now I'm going to take my soldering gun and I'm going to tin this very lightly. I'm actually going to cut this end off so it's not so sharp. There we go. Now, where did I get my solder school? Soldering. I went to solder school when I worked at Hughes Aircraft. It was like NASA solder school, and it was pretty interesting. So now that those two pieces are soldered, I'll make sure I get enough on there. There we go. Okay, so now it's soldered, and wait just a second or two. These are big pieces here, but I wanted them to be loose on here. These are heat shrink, so it's a little lighter. Heat shrink down to about 50%. They're not going to go completely over it. Alright, so now we've done that. I don't know if these will slide over it. They may not. No, they don't. So I'm just going to leave them as such. So before I put this back together, I want to test it. So I'm going to plug it in. I changed the plug, so I have an old crude plug here until I can get the other one back on. So it's almost like watching paint dry to see if this is turning. But if you look very carefully, you'll see this flat end move. And it's rotating this way. So I don't know if I can get that right up to you, let you see it. So it is rotating. You'll have to trust me on that. And so now I can unplug it and mount it. I have two brass bolts right here, and I have to line the gear up to fit in the wheel on the flat end. I didn't remove anything else, but I kept it this way so it wouldn't Okay, now I have to tighten the nut on the gear, which is very delicate. So in the last part of this, I made a mistake, and I'm going to show you what I did. This is a magnetic conduction motor, so there's no like outer moving parts, they're all internal. and they're affected by the field that this makes, the magnetic field that this makes, this transformer. Basically, it's a coil of wires, and it's got little magnets or little copper pieces on either side that determine the direction. Well, I had this plugged into the other side, and this transformer was flipped around, so it was going in the opposite direction. And then I noticed that by putting the needle into the time, and I noticed it was going the other way. So, I mean, I was frustrated because I said, oh, this should be simple. And always something simple doesn't always turn out to be simple. So you have to have lots of patience. I used to be a doctor, so I have lots of patience. Not anymore, but no. Anyway, that's a joke, son. So now the test was to go to the 15-minute mark. Nice. That's real nice. That's a good sound. So, Swiss Army knife, even if you took pictures of that, you wouldn't be able to figure that out. It's just something that, after working with transformers and reversing of magnetism, I remembered that there's our two directions to motors sometimes. So, some of them have a copper coil that you can take and move to the other side and change the direction of the motor. Some of them are three-phase, and you can change the wiring that goes into the motor by the connections to the plug, but not for house wiring. Three-phase will do that, but that's a little deep. Anyway, so I'm happy to get this done. I'm going to probably leave it out for a day and just make sure it all works properly. And as much as I didn't want to, there were some real gooey areas that I didn't want to take anything apart. So, and you may hate this, but I used a little brake cleaner in there, and that cleared up all of it. And then I got myself some clock oil, and I put some clock oil on the areas that needed lubrication, and it seems to be doing very well. So, a little auto tip. So I'm out, I'm done, I'll put it together. And I don't know if you guys want to see me putting it together, but I'll video that. All back together, ready to chime.